the caregiver child exception, this happens very frequently. You might even know someone in this situation where a parent, let's say it's a single mom, she's living alone, she's declining, and one of the children, let's say a daughter, is either between jobs or actually quits a job and moves in with mom. So if we can prove to Mass Health, it's only 3 things we have to do, and I'll go through them, then it's a permitted gift of the house. Mom can sign a deed giving her house to her daughter. If the daughter has lived with mom or any parent, it's only for a child of the person entering a nursing home. The child has to live with the parent continuously for at least 2 years. I had someone say, I have to live with mom for 2 years? No, at least 2 years, up to the point mom actually enters a nursing home. So if the kid has a fight with mom and moves out a month before, you're out of luck. You don't get a house. You got to go the distance, as I call it. So here's how we prove it at the time of application, but I do it sooner too. I do the deed sooner when I know it's a slam dunk. We have to prove, here are the bullets, they've continuously resided with the parent, and they caught somebody. There was a case where they caught, I don't know how they did this, but Mass Health caught the daughter. She was actually living with her boyfriend. And then she was at mom by day, but not at with mom by night. You have to be with mom. I don't mean you have to be there every minute. I don't mean that. You have to. She, I guess, had another residence they picked up on. I don't know how they do. They don't like to tell us all their tricks. It's cat and mouse all the time. So the easy way, it's really a very clever, simple way to prove continuous residency. Voting record. On one page, we can show that the child continuously resided with the parent for at least 2 years with the voting record. So when I have caregiver children who don't vote, I say, vote, vote. It's so much easier than trying to patch it together. You would have to, here's my library card, here are my tax returns, here's this, that. It's just so much easier to vote, and then we have one page to prove continuous residency for at least 2 years, up to the point of actually entering a nursing home, the parent. And then the care is very important. We used to get away, in the good old days, we used to get away with just showing the child lived with the parent for continuously, but now there's a case that we have to prove that the child provided the parent with at least 2 activities of daily living, and that will show up in the third thing, the doctor's letter. And then I listed them, the ADLs, if you've heard about ADLs, eating, bathing, getting dressed, toileting, transferring to a bed or chair. Those are the ADLs. But I find the doctor's letter is actually quite easy, because if we're getting to the point, it is really a true thing. When a child lives with a parent, it really does skip the assisted living intermediate stage, and they really are sincerely trying to keep the parent at home. And they really do go beyond 2 ADLs usually by the time they just can't do it anymore, which is usually falls and incontinence is usually like where the saints just can't do it anymore. And so we get the ADLs. So these are the 3 things. We just need a copy of the birth certificate of the child. It only works for children. So people who never had children, we don't have this as a tool. It doesn't work for nieces or anybody else. And then the one-page voter sheet showing continuous residency for at least 2 years, and the doctor's letter. Because the idea of getting a house, Mass Health recognizes that these heroic children who are moving in and living with their parent for this length of time, they deserve a house, and they save the state a lot of money. The state pays an average of $6,000 to $8,000 a month when someone's on Mass Health. So the nursing homes like private pay, they're getting $12,000 a month. But Mass Health, that's still a lot of money for Mass Health to pay. So they're happy to let the kid have a house because they delayed the entry into a skilled nursing home, and the state saved a lot of money. So any questions about the caregiver child exception? So now we're going to do what I call a reverse caregiver child exception. Reverse. This happens naturally also. It's where, even though the regulation, when it was written, anticipated the classic of the kid moving in with the parent, but it works the other way too, where, and I see that it just unfolds in a natural way with families, the house is too big, the husband has died, mom really can't handle this house anymore, and the kid, even with a husband, but let's start with a simple example. Let's say it's a child, unmarried child who lives alone in her house. It makes more sense for mom to sell her big old house and move into the in-law apartment or some section of the house that the daughter has, let's say in this, or let's say son in this example. So mom moves in with the son, and mom sells her house and buys in, because her house is non-countable. So let's say she sells her house. We get an appraisal of the son's house. She buys into the son's house, and the son gives a deed back. Now, what we have to do are get our numbers right here. We have to do an appraisal, because heaven forbid that mom paid an extra $1 to her son that was a gift. So let's say it's single son, unmarried son, and let's say his house appraises at $200,000, and mom pays son $100,000. Son's got $100,000. He gives a deed to himself and mom jointly. Mom's older. Most of the time, mom dies first, and then without probate, son has his house back, and we've saved $100,000. The title thing we need it to be jointly titled, because we never want to probate, and we're going to talk about this a little more with a life estate deed. We don't want to probate an estate if we can avoid it, because through probate administrations, that's when they get paid, Mass Health gets paid back. If you've heard, have any of you heard where people have lost a house to Mass Health? It's never during lifetime, it's through estate recovery after death. So if the son was married, then, and the appraisal, I got to make my numbers easy here for me. If the appraisal said $300,000, then mom gives $100,000 and gets a third. So husband and spouse and mom jointly own their house together. That's not even to the reverse caregiver child exception. That is a buy-in that actually works to shelter all the money, or at least what we could push into this plan for mom's sale of mom's house. It's a great way to save that part of the money. Then now mom's living there with a child, so son and his wife don't have to wait for mom to die to get the house. If mom lives continuously with her son in the son's house for at least 2 years, all the way up to the point that mom enters a nursing home, if she ever does. So then at that point, it's a permitted transfer for mom to give her 1/3 back to son and his wife. So it's really 2 plans built into one. And I know this is a little complicated stuff, but the main thing, because I know I'm jamming your heads with a lot of information, is to spot an issue, even if I'm sure something can be done here. I just want people to try and reach out and learn, like the articles that Leslie mentioned that I post, and I put them on in the newsletter here. I also post my articles on my website, the ones I write here for this newsletter, and I hand them out to my clients, and I say, the Council on Aging has required me to limit my words to 330 words. That's a good thing for the reader. So they're what I call nuggets. 330 words, that's it. So so that kind of helps you also with some of these tools you're hearing. I have a lot of articles already that I've explained this in more depth than we have time for today. So that's the idea of the reverse caregiver exception. In general, think of this is a question I get quite often over the phone. Mom wants to move in with us. Should we rent it to her or sell? We don't know what to do. Don't rent it. Let her buy in. If she has the money, buy in. And then we can shelter the money because it's her home. In the example of a 1/3 interest in son and his wife's home, the deed gave 1/3 interest to the mom, and that's her home. It's non-countable as long as she's alive. By making it joint at her death without probate, avoiding estate recovery, son and his wife get their house back. So this is a combination of 2 very powerful tools.